Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, and talking all things Tottenham. And things don't get any better for us today. So our first game back in the Premier League was obviously the 2-2 draw at Brentford, which wasn't too bad. It was more the performance that was worrying. And then when you expect to bounce back at home, we didn't. 2-0 defeat to Aston Villa, a team that we should be more than capable of beating. We're going to talk a bit about that today, about the players, what's going wrong, and if we change things, what can we change? So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Don't forget to support the video with a like, and as always, please leave your comments below. So let's just talk about the team itself. So Lloris was welcomed back into goal. Davies, Longley and Romero were the centre-back three, with Dyer dropping to the bench after the mistake against Brentford. They said it was to rest him, but I'm pretty sure it was a punishment. Doherty and Perisic as the left and right wing-backs. Højbjerg partnered by Bizuma once again, with Bentancur still out, and then Son, Kane and surprise addition of Bryan Gil as the front three. Hill on the right hand side replacing Kulusevski, who unfortunately picked up a muscular injury in training. The subs that weren't used during the game were Sanchez, Dyer, Forster and Tanganga, which mean those that were used, Sessegnon came on for Hill after 63 minutes, Royale and Sarr for Doherty and Bizuma on the 80th, and then in the 88th minute, Skip and Spence came on for Højbjerg and Perisic. Now the game itself, we did control in parts, but let's face it, we did nothing great with it. We controlled areas that weren't important to control. We didn't really show a response to going behind like we do in most games, and as we saw, like against Brentford, we responded and got the goals, but not enough goals to win the game. And then this time round, we just didn't respond at all, and that is the risk you run in certain games. Now, Conte has his excuses for things, and it's starting to wear a little bit thin with me, the way he talks in his interviews after the games, as I'm sure many people are. There's been a lot of Spurs fans out there calling for Levy to be out. There's loads of people that want Conte out. I will talk about why that could be and couldn't be a good idea for Spurs. So let's talk about the players as a whole. So Hugo Lloris, back in the 11. The first time he was actually called into action wasn't really until in the second half when he spilled that Luis shot. Watkins then pounced onto the loose ball and teed up Buendia for the goal. So for large parts of the game, there was nothing for him to do at all, but the time he got called into action, it was poor. It really was. He could have parried the ball off to the side, put it out for a corner, didn't do that, put it back into a very dangerous area. Spurs defence completely asleep for that, and didn't recover. Longley actually tried to make an effort to get back for it, and he shouldn't have been the one to do so. It should have been Romero. Second goal, Lloris wasn't really at fault for. That was just, sloppy for us, allowing them into a position for a goal. So Lloris, not too bad, but the biggest howler cost us the game, in my opinion. Romero, back in the squad as well after winning the World Cup with Argentina. Somebody that's rattled my cage a bit, because I feel like his commitment to Spurs isn't as much as it should be. Injured a lot in the build-up to the World Cup, but all of a sudden fine to play pretty much all the games for Argentina, apart from being dropped for one of them from the start, and then takes longer than others to come back from his celebrations. And then in this game, he did what he does best, lots of crunching tackles, lots of high energy. He was booked in the first half, but I think that was a little bit harsh. It looked like he'd won the ball. It was just a really aggressive tackle. It was one of those that was borderline. He could have actually been sent off for a shove on Coutinho after the ball went out of play. He was very lucky not to. Maybe the referee realised that maybe he shouldn't have booked him in the first half, and that played an influence. Longley, another one of our back three to get a first half yellow card. That was for a tactical foul, so I've got no problem with that. He was actually okay for the majority of the game, but he did make a mess late on and presented Villa with a chance. Luckily didn't come to anything. And then Ben Davies, the other of the back three, he also picked up a first half booking, but he didn't actually do too much wrong in the game. Now, the only issue with all the defenders picking up yellow cards, it means there's so much that they can't do in the game. They can't make challenges they'd normally make. They have to be careful. So that didn't help. Doherty, he actually had some lovely link up with Bryan Gil in the first half. There was a nice nutmeg on Mings in the Villa box, but that shot was deflected away from goal. Crucial sliding tackle on Watkins in our box after the hour mark. So overall, he actually did okay. Not enough in an attacking sense, I would say, but he was with Brian Hill for 63 minutes of that game. They wouldn't have a very familiar passing pattern between them. He'd have been much better with Kulusevski, but hey-ho. Perisic on the other side, he was actually used a lot down the left to begin with. Had a big chance in the second half, which he sliced over. He was then switched to the right when Brian Hill went off. Into midfield, Bazuma, he was off the pace pretty much the whole game. Picked up his 5th yellow card of the season, which I think is horrendous considering the amount of game time that he has had. So he now misses the next game against Palace. He did do one good thing in the game. He played a nice ball for Perisic. Højbjerg, easy way to sum him up. Very industrial as usual, putting himself about, but too many sloppy passes. Hill, he worked hard, let's put it that way. Some nice touches early on in the first Premier League start for him since he signed for us, but he couldn't make much impact. He gave the ball away way too much, but at least he was showing some desire to make things happen, and he actually got a decent reception from the Spurs fans as he went off the pitch on his substitution. Harry Kane in the middle didn't actually touch the ball for a very long time in the first half until he had a header cleared off the line by Ashley Young. He gave the ball away in the build-up to Villa's second goal, and then he snatched at a chance later on in the second half to send that high and wide over the bar. Not great from him. Sonny, caught in possession way too often in the first half. You would have seen him playing with his mask to begin with, and then it disappeared. In a bit of a tantrum with the way that he'd been playing, he threw his protective mask off. It's clearly been irritating him. He's low on confidence, low on inspiration. He did send an overhit pass into Kane for a first half chance, but other than that, he hasn't been impressive at all recently. Something is wrong. With Richarlison now injured as well, it doesn't help things because there's no pressure on him to perform better. Then the subs that did come on, Sessegnon introduced in the 63rd minute. He offered very little down the left, which is a shame because Perisic was forced over to the right. Maybe it'd have been a bit better to have him on the right and Perisic on the left. Sarr came on and he had a bright cameo actually. Some good interceptions, and I think the fans were happy with that. Emerson Royale added some energy down the right, but nothing more, which happens a lot. And then Spence got a nice reception from the fans when he was introduced, and Skip was also brought on, but neither of them really had any time to do anything. All in all, it's not good enough from Spurs. The injuries aren't helping. Richarlison obviously had a great World Cup, but is injured. That's not helping us. We could have done with him coming back with the high spirits. Kulusevski, massively important. We saw how poor we were without him whilst he was injured for that month, and then was able to recover over the World Cup. Was very impressive in the mid-season friendlies and had been good in our in his first game back. So it leaves us not with much. The fans expressed their anger. There was a lot of boos around the stadium at the end of the game. There was chants throughout for get Daniel Levy out of the club, Enoch. Strange public comments from Conte as well, which didn't help. He said that he told the club that we effectively would be rubbish this season. Conte's assessment of the game was very strange. He said the performance was good from the start to the end, the right commitment, intensity, right desire to get 3 points, to win duels, to press high and to run. We dominated the first half but didn't create chances to score. Villa were very deep with all 11 players. Second half started the same. Their goal changed the feeling and confidence of the players because they didn't deserve to be 1-0 down. He also pretty much hinted that the fans did not help. He said something about the warm atmosphere, and what he meant by that is when we're going behind, and bearing in mind this was the 10th consecutive game in all competitions that we've gone behind first. You can't really blame the fans, but he was saying that warm atmosphere, and he means the fans getting on the backs of the players and whatnot, didn't help. Also, to sum up, we were very poor in other aspects. We only had 6 shots on goal throughout the whole game to Villa's 13, and only 2 of ours were on target. So it was a pretty easy afternoon for Olsen in goal, one of the easiest he'll ever have, deputising for Argentina, World Cup winner. We just struggled to create throughout the game, I think. We didn't look like we had a plan. It was always going to be difficult anyway against an Unai Emery side. He's a decent manager. He has his teams very structured. I think he'll be great for Aston Villa. But yeah, do you know, I'm gonna leave it there for this one, because that's all there is really to talk about. We were poor and didn't ever look like we were going to get out of it. I am going to leave it there, but I will be doing another video, but I will release tomorrow, and that's going to talk about how the injuries are affecting us, Conte's attitude, Daniel Levy and the board maybe not backing him the way they should, comparisons to Jose Mourinho's tenure at Spurs, and what would happen if we were to bring Pochettino back. So you've got that one to look forward to. So thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and until next time, come on you Spurs.